Winning Plays is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Winning Plays podcast, back yet again. My name is Brian Robb, joined by Chris Forsberg of NBC Sports Boston as the Celtics take care of business in Game 6 against the Hawks by 128-120 margin. Chris, it got a little hairy there for the first three quarters. What was your level of concern here for a game that I think everyone expected to go the Celtics' way?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I think the game 5 traumatized us and we just assumed that it might linger. And I'm thinking there as they get near crunch time and the Hawks pull ahead by 3 and it felt like the offense was going to start sputtering and Smart had that really bad stretch. I will fully admit I was like, please don't let this be game 5 part 2. But no, just the opposite. Celtics actually tightened it up. Jaylen Brown hit that, huge sort of 28-foot 3-pointer. I think it was over the top of Collins, and it just felt like it was a relief. Okay, it's back to tied. Let's see what happens from here. And then the Celtics didn't miss the rest of the way with everybody kind of contributing. Or if they did miss, like the Horford missed, Tatum swoops in and shows about as much emotion as we've seen. So good for them to get to the finish line. But I'll tell you, B-Rob, here's what I walk away thinking. If we learned anything in the series, it's that like the road is here. The Celtics should be in the NBA Finals. They just got to stay out of their own damn way, which we probably already knew before this series, but this series just strongly reaffirmed. Don't play with your food. Don't take your foot off the gas pedal and just get this thing done because it is improbable just how much it has laid out perfectly for this team.
The fact that the Celtics only have to beat two of the Heat, Knicks, or 76ers to get to the final is nuts, to your point.
Wild.
It's absolutely nuts. And it's like I said, it's right there for them. We thought last year they could not have a better path. We were wrong this year. This is like as good as it gets. There are some demons involved here, but with like Miami, but still, that's all these teams are teams that you should beat, particularly a Philly team that may or may not have Embiid like close to 100% in this series. But going back to games,
what is your read on that? Do you want to jump ahead to Philly, or are we gonna, or do we?
Let's do one read on this game. I think.
Okay.
You brought up Smart. I think that was like the key to this game right now. Like midway through that fourth quarter, he looked like 2 bricks and a turnover, and it was like, here we go. Game 7 in Boston, upcoming. Then he went to the bench.
Yes.
For like 30 seconds, and he came back, and he figured out, okay, I'm going to go to the paint now. I'm not going to hang out at the 3-point line when these doubles come. Horford 3, open shots all over the place that led to offensive rebounds, and then he finally, at one point, he even hit a layup because they went out to chase a 3 at the end of the game. Do you feel like that was an awareness thing for him? Was that an adjustment that Joe Mazzulla made? Like, how do you feel like, because that's like, okay, this is the Smart that needs to show up in every fourth quarter. You need to go
so
spot.
I think you've heard the story, right? Max tells the story where like last year, Smart's agreement with Ime Udoka was he had like one miscue, right? Like he could throw away a stupid pass and then it was like, okay, you got to tighten up. And I don't know what his deal is with Joe this year. I don't think there's anything similar, but it's like in that moment, Joe said, okay, and credit to Joe for recognizing this is unacceptable. Malcolm Brogdon had just steadied the floor game for the start of that fourth quarter. Here you come and you're taking bad shots and you're turning the ball over. And it felt like he went to the bench and it was just enough to be like, Marcus, kind of reel it in, which is something that this team has struggled with so much, just kind of catching themselves. But certainly I think he went back out there with just maybe a little something in the back of his mind of, okay, he's not going to be afraid to pull me off the court here in crunch time if I don't get my act together. Now, they needed his defense. They wanted the chaos factor. So it's hard to keep Marcus off the court, but it was good that he had some of the awareness to reel it in. I agree. I think the 3 he made, I mean, I think all of us were sitting there going, "Oh boy, that's a big shot that he's got to hit on that swing to the above the break." And but yeah, it just felt like he made the right plays. He was engaged defensively, really throughout the second half. Like it felt like Marcus said, "Okay, Trey's not going to beat us," and was at least a little bit more impactful in trying to take him out of it. And I think it showed, not only in Trey's output but the Hawks in general. So credit. Like this is why we can debate all day whether Marcus Smart. How much you can trust him in that situation, but especially on a podcast called Winning Players, I think you just got to trust that he's going to make the right. He's got more often than not is going to make the right play.
2 out of every 3 games, the winning plays for Marcus Smart. One of 13 for Trey in the second half, like just sneaky, like they really shut him down there. And the Joe Mazzulla hockey lines to end the game here, like literally just mixing and matching at the end, like you said, was that just to keep everyone on their toes situation? Like, all right, listen, things didn't go well in game 5 here. Let's just get everyone a chance to find a lineup that works.
It could be. I mean, I do like that the core four was out there. It felt like he made it a point to have Al, Marcus, Jalen, Jason. Then those were the guys that kind of carried you to the finish line. I still don't know if we know what the closing lineup is, but the fact of the matter is, yeah, they should probably, it shouldn't get to a point in the next round where you have to worry about a closing lineup if you play to your potential. So, you can worry about that further down the road. And the best part is at least he has options. Like it's what a luxury to be able to say, if Marcus doesn't have it going, he can go to Brogdon or White or whatever. But yeah, they need everybody to just sort of be just that little bit more locked in. I like just the energy at the end. Like, where the hell has that been for the better part of this series? Where's the emotion, the desire to end this thing? I do hope that, as annoying as it was to have to go to game 6, and I always fear that this team never learns its lesson, but I do hope it at least pluck something from this series. It can be like, oh yeah, we're really good. We're so much better than everybody else that's remaining. Let's just actually show it.
Let's turn things on with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter instead of turning,
Yeah,
take it off. That's yeah, it is
bold strategy.
Bold strategy, crazy. Like Tatum, I feel like Tatum showed up for the whole second half. From the rebounding standpoint, Jalen really seemed to turn it on in the fourth quarter offensively and defensively. Like the efficiency of those guys is kind of crazy, but again, it's the Hawks. Like defensively, they have no one who can shut those guys down. So that's
can we talk about the most unexpected part was Al Horford pretty much saying, like, if you trash talk him, he will rip your throat out. Like, yes. I did not expect bold Al in the post game press conference to be upset at the Hawks.
I want to find out. I want to find that fan. Like, what do you say now, Horford, the nicest guy on the planet, to rile him up that much?
And the spin it forward, Rob, like, this is why I'm bullish on. I mean, I always thought that the Celtics were better than the Sixers to begin with, but we know how motivated Al gets for that matchup. And if I was worried about like focus and intensity, you got Al, who's going to be like, look, I love you guys, but we are not losing this series to this team. And I just feel like they're in a really good spot going into this. Not only, clearly you never want injuries, but for a Celtics team that has so often been on the other side of it, it's almost jarring that it's like, oh, someone else is worried about health and not the Celtics. And even at full strength, I feel pretty good about the Celtics chances based on how they've played these Sixers in really the entirety of the Embiid tenure.
Yeah. So let's get to it. We'll have a full-fledged preview coming up, but we have enough time here to really dig into this a little bit. It's like you said, it's weird that this team has no injuries right now, not even a concern of one. Jalen's hand, like that doesn't even seem to be a factor anymore based on just how he's playing right now. And I don't know, like this almost, I feel like the Celtics, it's going to be much easier to guard the rest of the Sixers team outside of Embiid than this Hawks team. This Hawks team had a bunch of guys that could put up points. The Sixers, I think it's just, we've seen it for all year from a matchup standpoint. The Celtics do really well with this team because there's just not a lot of guys who scare you anymore, whether it's Harden or Tobias Harris. Like Embiid is going to get his, but outside of Maxey going nuts, like who else is there to worry about right now?
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Like, you start looking at the score. Maxey's been great, like super efficient these playoffs. I do think he'll give you some troubles, but can he maintain that efficiency? We know Harden's not going to. The Celtics have been consistently through the years able to frustrate him. The one thing will be like, how mad do they get if Embiid and Harden live at the free throw line? That's the sort of the roadmap for them to really kind of put some pressure on Boston. But on the other side, like, Celtics have scored at will against this team, like, pretty consistently, especially when they've had everybody. And you just feel like they're really set up with their depth. I mean, the Sixers run out of depth real quick. I mean, 5 deep, 6 deep, like it gets dicey. And I just don't. The Celtics should have an advantage when the Brogdons and Robbs and all that come into that game to at least make some hay. And even if Embiid's going nuts, can he play? Like, what if he's got a bum knee? Can he play 40+ minutes in these games? And so I just think they're in a tough spot if Embiid isn't able to give them everything, play at an MVP level. So I would have felt this. I keep saying it. I would have felt this way even if Embiid was healthy, because the Celtics have just owned that Philadelphia team. And that's not to say it won't be complicated, because the Celtics make everything complicated. But it's hard for me to see the roadmap. And I said that with the Hawks too. But it's hard for me to see the roadmap for Philly really, really finding a way to win 4 games in this series. Like, it just feels like the Celtics, even if it has to go 6 or 7, should ultimately emerge in this series.
It's a series that should go 5 games, won't go 5 games, will
Yep.
go longer than
Well,
that, like
exactly.
you said, Atlanta. But to your point, I don't think Embiid can even play 40 minutes in this series if he's healthy. With the pace that, like, if the Celtics play the pace that they played in Game 6 against the Sixers, that is going to be like Harden and Embiid are going to be gasping for air at the beginning of every fourth quarter.
Which means the Celtics will walk the ball up the court
Right.
for, throughout the duration of these. No, like I think this is why it's important that Joe, whenever they start huddling, has got to be like, guys, look, there's like a clear way to win this series where it's just play with pace, make these guys work. And yeah, there's going to be nights where they go unconscious and it might be tough, but my gosh, it just doesn't feel like it's sustainable for Philly from that perspective.
And then you just look down the bench to your point of like, okay, it's like Brogdon versus DeAnthony Melton and like Grant Williams versus Jalen McDaniels or Paul Reed. Like, you just like, there's just advantages everywhere for this. Like, there's guys that you can pick on everywhere for them. And if Embiid is not being his efficient self, like, I don't know where they make up that scoring if the Celtics decide to lock down defensively, which I expect them to do in this series. I think this is going to be definitely a more, defensively minded. So Philly can lock down when they want to there. But when you look for years, it's like the Celtics have abused Tobias Harris when it matters. And Harden, you just don't trust him to be able to separate anymore in this series, I feel like. And PJ Tucker, corner threes, like, yeah, are they going to beat you 4 out of 7 games? Like, it's hard to see it happening.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Like, it's so weird. I told you this when we went into the Hawks series. Like, it's weird to be irrationally confident in the Celtics because they don't inspire confidence with the way that they make everything more complicated than it needs to be. And yet, ultimately, despite their own ability to muddy it up, the path is there. It's wide open. The runway. Just take it. Just go to the finals. Wait to see who comes out of the West, and just be ready. Just stay healthy for a month. That's all you got to do, Celtics.
Well, forget the West. Who's coming out of the other East semifinals?
And that's a great question. I suspect the Knicks will win that series. And you don't think so?
Randall, I don't know. I'm a believer in my Magic now. Like, I'm all in on this.
Wow.
Because the Knicks, the Cavs weren't ready for prime time in that series. Like,
true,
they stunk, and I mean Milwaukee stunk for a lot of that series too. But I refuse to bet against Jimmy Butler at this point with that Knicks team.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And like, look, we all know who the writers are rooting for in this series after being denied the Miami trip in round 1. I am absolutely, and if I can't go to Milwaukee, then I'd much rather go to Miami than do the New York shuttle down there and like get no air miles in this postseason. So yeah, I'll be interested. And if like Jimmy's gonna have to be great again. And I just don't know if he can do it for 3 straight series. So, but if he can do it for 2 and then hopefully run out of gas, again, the depth is the thing for me. Is just, it's at some point Jimmy's going to look up and be like, oh my God, like unless Bam just goes up supernova or goes to another level for an entire series, it's just, he's going to need some help. And but yeah, I guess the bottom line is if you're the Celtics fan, you're just hoping those 2 teams beat the hell out of each other in a series and just be gassed. And again, Celtics, all the more reason you got to take care of business quick against Philly if you are truly the superior team. All
right. Well, Celtics sitting on home court advantage throughout these plays. I mean, we didn't even spend any time on the Bucks collapse. We can talk. Let's do a whole podcast.
I'm just too upset. I love Milwaukee. I was ready for a 7-game series between the 2 best teams in the NBA. And despite Giannis's suggestion, just a devastatingly epic failure for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Coach Bud, with like, it's a legendary performance. Legendary.
Who's going to coach? Who's coaching there next year? Like, not Nick Nurse, right?
Yeah, I can't be Nick. Everyone says Nick Nurse. I'm like, you don't want Nick Nurse there. Like,
it could have been Ime.
That's the thing now. It's like,
right.
And we really nailed the Ime talk being like saying there's no chance he's going to go. But we at least were on timely in terms of talking about it.
I'm glad we spoke that into existence, and it didn't turn out to be as much of a distraction as I thought it would be. So, yeah, all good that he picked that, because if he went to Milwaukee or something, or if he went to Philly, or if he went to even Toronto, that's a lot more consternation than there is now. And now you don't have to worry about seeing him if Wembanyama gets them to the finals in like 2028.
Well, we'll be waiting for that. For now, the 2023 finals are on the docket. I'm Brian Robb. I'm gonna go try to find my voice. Go check out Chris Forsberg, NBC Sports Boston. The games are gone, but the coverage will still be ramped up.
The coverage will stay, and I get to go out on the road. I will be seeing you in Philly.
Oh yeah, road Forsberg. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll come back next week with a bigger preview and hopefully my voice. Talk to you then.
Celtics coverage is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win.